LAZARUS McCARTHY CHAKWERA. The mention of his name before June 2020 was a symbol of hope and change in Malawi. His presidential win was historic and he was supposed to be better. A better man because he's a religious leader. A better politician because he was a good opposition leader. And a better reformer because he said the right things that spoke to the hearts of Malawians and their struggles. Fast forward to present day and his name invokes anger, disappointment and sorrow. In less than 9 months from recording this video, Malawi will hold its 7th presidential election. September 16, 2025 will go down in history as one of the most important presidential votes that Malawians will cast. The most pressing question lingering in many minds is whether to give this government a second chance to improve the rapidly declining economy and address the hardships people are facing, or to vote in a new government and hope for better results. In this video, we focus on the current president of Malawi and leader of the Malawi Congress Party, Dr. Lazarus Chakwera. Who is he? Who was he before he became president in 2020? Is he actually qualified enough to lead us? Why did people vote for him? What significant projects and improvements has he made in his first term? And what happened to the Tonse Alliance? Chakwera's presidency has been marked by minor achievements and criticisms, making him a polarizing figure in Malawian politics. Nevertheless, he still has many die-hard supporters who will back him till the end. As always, this video will objectively focus on Chakwera's background, political career, achievements, controversies, and popularity. Then I'll give him a personal M-dubz rating, like I did in my previous videos on Kabambe, Muntarika, Joyce Banda, and Atupele Muruzi. Don't forget to get involved too. Share your ratings and comments below on his chances for re-election in 2025. Alright, let's get right into it. My name is Brendan, and this is M-dubz Report. Mwadzuka bwanji, mwaswera bwanji, madzulo abwino. Lazarus Chakwera had a modest and rural upbringing. Born on April 5, 1955, in a village outside Lilongwe to Ernest Person Chakwera and Malin Mwali. His father was a teacher and also a farmer. Chakwera says that he was given the name Lazarus by his father, signifying hope and resilience, following the tragic death of his 2 older brothers who died in infancy. He attended Malembo Primary School and later completed his secondary education at Ntendere Secondary School. He has been open about the fact that he was a shy child who struggled to speak publicly to more than 2 to 5 people at the same time. The popular belief is that he picked up his American accent in the US, but it was actually this secondary school that Chakwera started mimicking the American accent from one of his teachers, a skill that would later complement his public speaking. He initially wanted to be a doctor, but says that he met God during his formative years and felt a call to redirect his life towards ministry. Here is a quick timeline of his educational qualifications in theology. In 1977, he earned a Bachelor of Arts degree from the University of Malawi, and then an honors degree in theology from the University of North South Africa in 1981. 10 years later, he obtained a master's degree from the University of South Africa in 1991. Then eventually in 2000, he was awarded a doctorate in ministry from Trinity International University in United States of America. In 2005, the Pan-African Theological Seminary awarded him professorship. So, in summary, theology was his focus and his passion. Chakwera lived in the United States for approximately 9 years, and while residing there, it is said that he worked with various organizations and institutions, including the Chikondi Health Foundation and the Sarah Walker Foundation at Lipscomb University in Nashville, Tennessee. It is not clear as to what capacity he worked with these organizations and what skills he may have picked up from his work with them. He worked as an instructor or lecturer at the Assemblies of God School of Theology for 17 years from 1983 to 2000. And even as a principal in 1996. At the same time, he served as a pastor and eventually became the president of the Assemblies of God in Malawi, a position he held from 1989 to 2013. His leadership in the church earned him a reputation for integrity, discipline, and visionary thinking. While this may not be the most obvious and technical career pathway for someone who ends up as president, there are some skills that he clearly applied on his rise to power. Public speaking. All those years of lecturing and preaching prepared him for this role. Leadership. Churches are like small kingdoms with structures, budgets, goals, projects, and most importantly, people who will need to buy into the vision of the leader. And networking. The Assemblies of God is a mega church with members of all walks of life who need guidance, support, and a sense of community. There's a long list of organizations where he sat on the boards between 1997 and 2014. One that is important was his position as the chair of the Petroleum Control Commission of Malawi from 2005 to 2007 and the Malawi National Council of Sports from 2007 until 2012. This was during Bingu wa Mutharika's presidency. This seems to be the period of transition into politics because these positions were very different from the previous roles in the church. My take is that he must have built up enough support, encouragement, and clout to push him into politics. So, in summary, Chakwera was a pastor for most of his life, held some important leadership positions, then decided to move into politics. Let's move on to his political career. Chakwera has said that making the decision to become a politician was not easy. Here's a clip of him talking about how hard the decision was.
And more recently, I had to argue with God over a direction in life that didn't seem natural to me. And this is what led me to where I am now, where I'm running for president of Malawi. And it was a struggle for me to make that decision.
It is said that his decision to transition from religious leadership to politics was driven by a desire to address Malawi's socio-economic challenges. So with that, Chakwera entered politics in 2013 and became a member of parliament in May 2014. He represented Lilongwe Northwest constituency. He was voted in as Malawi Congress Party MCP president and contested the presidential election but lost to Peter Mutharika, coming in second with just over 27% of the overall votes cast against Mutharika's 36%. Following this defeat, he served as a very vocal leader of opposition in the National Assembly until February 2019, championing issues of governance, accountability, and development. Isn't it ironic that the issues that he championed while he was in opposition are the same ones that most Malawians are criticizing him over? Truth be told, at that time he was a great leader of the opposition. We will cover his leadership of the ruling government shortly. As you know, Chakwera ran again for presidency in 2019 under MCP and got 35% of the votes. The elections were annulled, so he then merged with other political parties to form the Tonse Alliance. His persistence paid off when he won the presidency through a historic rerun election with 59.34% of the votes cast. So to be clear, he would not have been able to win without the support of UTM and the late Saulos Klaus Chilima. Here is a reminder of what the power sharing agreement was supposed to be.
The Malawi Congress Party and the UTM agreed to be equal partners. In the pre-election contest, the following was agreed, among others, that the presidents of the Malawi Congress Party and the UTM shall agree in writing who would be candidate and who would be running mate. 2, that subject to the decision of the National Executive Committees or conventions, as the case may be, of the UTM and the Malawi Congress Party, the presidential candidate during the fresh elections of June 2020 shall not be the presidential candidate during the immediate next election and shall cede the candidacy to the running mate in the fresh presidential elections of 20 June 2020. Beyond this, I would like to state that the agreement was signed for a period of 10 years in which both Dr. Chakwera and I would support one another to lead one term.
The past regime was criticized to be openly tribalistic in its appointments of people in the ministerial positions and awarding contracts. People from the central and northern regions felt sidelined. So as the leader of the Tonse Alliance, Chakwera promised transformative change including job creation, infrastructure development, and an end to corruption. 4 years down the line, has he achieved any of this?
What do you think?
I had initially thought I would discuss a separate list of achievements, then discuss failures. But it seems that the good and the bad are intertwined. So I'll discuss these in topics and projects instead. Infrastructure. Before I go into what I could find as notable infrastructure development projects by the Tonse Alliance government, let me remind you of what they promised in their manifesto. 1. Creation of 1 million jobs. 2. Affordable fertilizer. 3. 3 meals a day to promote food security and ensuring that every Malawian has access to sufficient nutrition. 4. Social welfare programs with initiatives like 15,000 kwacha for the elderly and 14,000 kwacha for passports to support vulnerable populations. 5. Mega farms, establishing large-scale farms to enhance agricultural output and support the economy. So here are the projects that have been credited to his government. Disclaimer, this is what the government say they're doing, but most of these projects are not yet complete. Mzuzu infrastructure development. The government has invested over 4 million in upgrading earth roads in Mzuzu. Additionally, a new civic office complex valued at 17 billion. Road rehabilitation and expansion in Lilongwe, including the capacity improvement of Kenyatta Road to a 6-lane road and the double-lane road of Nzimba Street. The rehabilitation of the 347-kilometer stretch of M1 road from Lumbadzi to Chiweta, Mozambique to Malawi Power Interconnector. The construction of the 20,000-seat Mbelwa Stadium and a new council office complex is underway. New infrastructure projects have been commissioned at Nomasi College of Education in Zomba. So 5 years and 6 notable infrastructure projects. Will you call that a success?
You have to decide which one it is.
Where are all the projects that were promised in the Tonse Alliance Manifesto? And honestly, what is the reach and impact to the lives of Malawians? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Let's move on to the economy. So, who can forget the issue that Malawi had with the IMF in 2022? Chakwera's government reported that the previous government had provided inaccurate data on its international reserves to get funding through the IMF's 2018 Extended Credit Facility program. This was an example of the Tonse Alliance commitment to end corruption and financial malpractice, or it may have been a way to highlight the issues in Peter Mutharika's leadership. This act of transparency and accountability backfired and created a trust issue with the IMF for a year and a half. But Malawi's authorities quickly acknowledged the problem, took steps to fix it, and committed to better transparency. The IMF granted waivers and kept the partnership going. This is how the people of Malawi felt the heat of the IMF ban on donor funding. Economic strain, with difficulties in financing essential services and development projects. Increased borrowing. Malawi had to rely more on domestic borrowing, which put pressure on interest rates and made the country's debt situation worse. Fun fact, Malawi has higher interest rates than most of our surrounding countries. So the consequence of that is higher inflation and higher cost of living for ordinary Malawians. Exchange rate volatility. The country faced exchange rate volatility as it struggled to secure foreign currency, impacting imports and overall economic stability. To put it simply, there isn't enough funding for social programs and services which could benefit vulnerable groups who are dealing with worsening poverty and inequality. Let me just summarize his presidency by acknowledging the fact that Chakwera's government has had to deal with big global events like the COVID pandemic, the Russia and Ukraine war, the effects of climate change, and the economic effects of other conflicts around the world. That being said, has he done enough and everything within his capacity to help the people and grow the country? Some would say that he has been focused on the politics of staying in power instead. So let's discuss some of the controversies surrounding his presidency. Alleged nepotism and favoritism. Here are some of the relatives and close allies that he has appointed to key government positions. In July 2021, his daughter Violet Chakwera was appointed as a personal assistant to the First Lady, Monica Chakwera. Then a position as First Secretary responsible for investments in the Malawi High Commission in the UK in 2022, without any prior diplomatic experience. Sean Kampondeni, his son-in-law, was appointed as the Director of Communication at the State House, as well as the President's Executive Assistant and Speechwriter. There are some allegations of nepotism that have surfaced regarding contracts awarded to companies connected to high-ranking officials and their relatives. We'll cover this in another video. President Chakwera has defended his decision, emphasizing the qualifications of the appointed individuals and their contributions to the administration. Let me know your thoughts on this. Let's end this with a summary of the Tonse Alliance breakdown, the death of SKC, and Chakwera's chances of success in the upcoming elections. The breakdown of the Tonse Alliance was gradual, but there were many warning signs. Cabinet appointments concerns. Early on, there were some frustrations regarding the distribution of cabinet positions. Members of the UTM felt that their representation was not as strong as they had hoped, which led to some early tensions within the coalition. Vice President Saulos Chilima's removal. Chakwera's decision to remove Vice President Saulos Chilima from his ministerial role caused a big rift in the alliance and between him and the president. Many saw it as a move that reduced his influence. This was followed by corruption charges against Chilima, which further complicated the relationship within the coalition. The lack of clear evidence, along with the perception that the charges were politically motivated, made the situation even more delicate, leaving Chilima in a more vulnerable position. Before he passed, there were rumors that he would run against MCP. Unfortunately, SKC passed on in suspicious circumstances a few weeks after the charges against him were dropped. Eventually, UTM chose to part with the coalition, citing issues like a lack of communication and unresolved differences with the Malawi Congress Party. This marked the end of the coalition partnership. Popularity and its chances of success in the upcoming presidential elections. Personally, many people that I speak to are not supporters of Lazarus Chakwera. I also conducted a poll on YouTube to get the online sentiment, and only 13% of people would vote for him. Despite all this, when he visits rural areas and conducts rallies, he seems to be pulling big crowds. This shows that he is still popular with MCP loyalists and urban voters, despite the economic hardships and unmet expectations during his presidency. This year, he has the big task of competing against the very popular APM and DPP, which is a strong party, the young and very charismatic Atupele Muluzi in UDF, as well as the new and intelligent Daliso Kabambe in UTM. To secure re-election, Chakwera will need to rebuild trust, address pressing economic issues, and present a compelling vision for Malawi's future. But if we're being honest, is it too little too late? Can he achieve that? With that being said, let's rate him. Remember, these are my personal ratings, and you are entitled to agree or disagree with them. Just let me know why in the comment section. Chakwera is not a strong leader. He may be a good and kind man, but he doesn't command the kind of authority that the leader of a country such as Malawi should have. His personality has led to public officials doing as they please, knowing that the consequences won't be dire. His background and pastoral leadership makes him a good communicator, but unfortunately, actions speak louder than words, so we need more. In this category, I give him 4 out of 10. Let's give it to him. Merging with UTM and other parties to win the 2020 elections was a great political move. The Tonse Alliance had a lot of potential. That's where it ends. Chakwera did not honor the power-sharing deal to hand over the presidency to SKC after the first term. He announced that he was running again before SKC passed away. Many people will never forget that. Also, his policies have yet to produce meaningful results for the average Malawian. So for this category, I give him 3 out of 10. I've already covered the allegations of nepotism, governance challenges, and conflicts within the Tonse Alliance. But if we're being honest, this is not the most controversial government that we have ever had. Remember DPP, Cashgate, and the UDF's attempt to amend the constitution to run for the 3rd term. In this category, I would say it's fair to give him 6 out of 10. Chakwera's appeal has reduced since 2020. He was supposed to be like Moses, who would take us to the promised land, but many would say that they are drowning in a sea of hardship and suffering since he came into power. You can't say this around MCP loyalists though, because they will defend him till the end. In this category, I rate him 5 out of 10. So, my overall rating, 18 out of 40 or 4.5 out of 10. As the 2025 elections approach, it is very important to critically assess the candidates and their promises. While Chakwera's leadership has shown moments of promise, economic hardships and unmet expectations remain pressing challenges. Will Malawians give Chakwera another chance or choose a new path? Time will tell. If you approve of our content, be sure to like, share, and subscribe so that you don't miss out on any upcoming content. I've been your host, Brendan, from M-dubz Report. Until the next time, Zikomu.